Hello beautiful people, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Oluchiimoh, and on this channel I talk about cake business, I share tips on personal development, entrepreneurship, I do story time tutorials, I share recipes as well, and you're welcome. So one of my subscribers asked me, how do I, or what's the procedure to make my cake batter rise? Now that's the question that I'll be answering in this video. She asked a couple of questions, about 3 questions, and I want to look at the third one today. So what do you need to do to make your cake batter rise? First of all, when I got this question I was like, make my cake batter rise. So the first thing my mind went to was like, okay, your recipe has to be right, your recipe has to be right. But then aside recipe being right, what are the other things you need to do for your cake to rise, for your cake not to fail? Now that's what I'll be addressing in this video. So if this is something you're interested in, you definitely want to keep on watching because I'll be right back. You're welcome back. So the first point I'll be sharing if you want your cake batter to rise is to cream your butter and sugar well. So this also relates to having a moist cake. If you want to have a moist cake, you need to cream your butter and your sugar really nice, really well. So whether it's margarine you're using or butter you're using, you want to cream, take time to do the creaming process. But please, I'm not talking about over mixing, so do not over mix your cake batter, but make sure that you incorporate air into the process. I cannot give a specific number of or a specific duration for you to mix because mixers differ, the capacity differ, how it's built differs, so you might need to spend some time. So like for me, on the average, for me to get my butter and sugar to mix well, yes, also depending on the quantity of the butter you're using and the sugar as well, you might need to mix either for short or longer. Yeah, so this is one thing I've observed. So I was talking about myself. For me, on the average, I mix for about 10 to 15 minutes to get it light, to get it fluffy, to get it light at least to some extent. Another thing you want to be watching out for is that when you've mixed properly well, you'll see that the color will change. Especially if you're using margarine, the color is going to change. It's going to become pale, it's going to become lighter in color. If it's yellow, it's going to become a lighter shade of yellow. So cream your butter and sugar well. This would help you incorporate air into that creaming process, and this makes for a better cake batter and makes for a better cake at the end of the day. So this is one thing that I'm going to talk about, and it's the beginning, it's the first thing that I think you need to do: cream your butter and your sugar well. The second thing I'll be talking about, I don't know where I saw this, or maybe my teacher taught me many years back, is that you should also incorporate air when you're sieving your flour. So when I came across this information, I think they talked about sieving from a height, not that you should raise it up so much, but you know, try to raise your hands when you're sieving your flour, for those of us that sieve flour, because I think in some clients this comes already fine. You don't need to sieve your flour, you don't need to sieve your confectioner sugar. Please, I may be wrong, but that is what I think I've seen in some quarters, in some places. So if you're sieving your flour, you need to sieve your flour before baking. Then try and take it to some heights and then sieve. As you're doing that, we are told and we are taught that you incorporate air into your flour this way. Okay, so this is one thing you should look at to help your cake batter rise, is to help you have good batter at the end of the day. So incorporate sieve your flour and incorporate in the process. So if you normally sieve this way, you want to just take it up to a little height. I'm just doing this so that the camera can pick it. Please don't sieve all the way up, right? Put your hand down, but try to elevate it just a little bit so that it will incorporate when you're sieving your cake flour, or when you're sieving your flour. The third thing is to use room temperature ingredients. So try and use room temperature ingredients. This is a no-brainer. We know it, we hear it all the time. It even sounds cliche, but I need to say it, right? So get your ingredients out. If you know that you stored your butter in the fridge, or your margarine, your eggs, whatever it is you're using to bake, please bring them out at least like an hour or two to allow them come to room temperature before you use them, because of the science of baking. And we also know that if you're using cold ingredients, it will not mix properly well, so your batter will not mix properly. Okay, so I don't know if this is popular around here, because here in Nigeria we bake with margarine, we bake with butter, but mostly margarine. Most bakers would do with margarine, and then this is something I would just store at room temperature. So it's okay to have it at room temperature, but if peradventure you have it stored in the fridge, your butter is stored in the fridge, or your margarine for any reason at all, please bring it out let it come to room temperature. For your eggs as well, do the same thing. And if you do this, your batter, you'll be able to mix your batter well, your cake batter well, everything will be properly incorporated. Even your milk, bring it out to room temperature so that they'll be well incorporated when you're mixing, during the mixing process, and you would have a good voluminous batter at the end of the day. The next point that we're talking about is to use the right oven temperature. So I baked of recent and something happened to my cake batter. My cake batter, it did not rise per se, it did not even get done, despite the fact that I kept it in the oven for over 3 hours. Yes, you heard me right, over 3 good hours. I had my cake baking, which is not supposed to be. On the average, my cake will bake for like 45 minutes to 1 hour thereabouts, and it's done. But on this particular day, over 1 hour, it was not done, and I was wondering. I kept checking and checking. This cake was not, it didn't get done. I finally just had to bring it out of the oven and then just leave it like that. What happened? There was a problem somewhere. What happened? I was baking with the wrong oven temperature. So something happened. My oven temperature was not at the right temperature that I would normally use for my baking, and so it took forever to get done. And until, like I said, brought it out over 3 hours later, it did not get done. So it did not that it just did not get done, my batter did not rise. In fact, at some point it started shrinking in the oven. And this is the clip of the cake. Just as you can see, it shrunk in the pan. It just did not get done, as you can see. So please ensure that you're baking with the right temperature. Anything that is going to affect the batter, anything that is going to affect your cake batter, please avoid it. Make sure that you're baking with the right oven temperature. It depends and it differs for some people, for some of their cakes. For me, I use the same oven temperature to bake for all my cakes. I know where I have it at. You can use an oven thermometer to determine this so that you're guided and you know the right thing to do. So please bake with the right oven temperature. Another thing is that you shouldn't add things to your cake batter that you're not sure of. For example, I've shared a story before of one of my customers that asked me to add raisins to a coconut cake. I told her that I wasn't sure that this thing was going to work. And then she just like, okay, we could go ahead, we could try. And I was still young in baking then, so I agreed that I was going to try, and I tried, and it was tasty, it was nice, but it messed up with the structure of my cake. So if you add things to your cake batter that you're not supposed to add, it can mess up your cake. It would affect the texture. It can also affect the volume. So please, if you're not too sure, do not add anything to your cakes that you're not supposed to add to the recipe. Don't alter your recipes. If you alter your recipes, it can affect the volume, it can affect your cake from rising. Just as you can see in this one again, I had another experience where I just said, oh, let me try and add this to my cake. I added it to my cake, and it turned out to be my cake started shrinking at some point. It affected the volume of my cake, and it also turned out to be so oily. It really turned out to be really oily. So not really, but it turned out to be oily. So please be mindful of what you add to your cake. Don't alter your batter. Don't decide, oh, I want to add this. That's why when people ask me on my channel, I put out a recipe, and then people ask me different questions. Sometimes you ask me questions I cannot answer because you're ultimately not making my recipe again. You're ultimately not making what I shared on my channel. You're making something else. So when you ask me questions like, excuse me, ma, please, can I use 2 cups of sugar instead of 3 cups of sugar? I'm just giving an example, not 3 cups of sugar. Can I use, okay, instead of using 2 cups of sugar, can I use 1.5 or 1 cup of sugar? And then can I add coconut flakes? And then can I use buttermilk instead of milk? And then what if I reduce, like you're altering everything? So I really cannot give you an answer. So most times I either just tell you that I cannot tell you the results you're going to get, or that's a totally different recipe you want to make, because sometimes you see recipes online and then you just want to subtract, add, multiply, subtract, add, multiply. You're altering that cake recipe, and it's going to affect the texture, it's going to affect the batter, it's going to affect the volume, it will affect the structure of the cake at the end of the day. So please don't just alter recipes. Try and use them the way they are, and then if you want to add anything, just be sure that you actually know what you're doing and you're able to balance out these ingredients. Okay. The next thing I'm talking about is to use the right leavening agent. So we either have baking powder or baking soda. Either of these two are the leavening agents that usually come with when it comes to baking, right? So when it comes to cake baking, it's either we're using baking powder or baking soda. So make sure that you're using this in the right quantities, and also make sure that they are not expired, that they're still within the use date, so you know when you can use them. And I've spoken before on my video, I've taught you before how to check for the effectiveness of this leavening agents. Please check if your baking powder is still working and if your baking soda is still working in quotes. Ensure that you also close them. They are airtight, they're short airtight when you need to store them after usage. If air gets into it, it can render or reduce the effectiveness. So you want to use your leavening agents to help your cake batter rise when you're baking. Now, before I share the last point, I would like to say a big thank you to those who have signed up for my pro online baking course. Thank you so much for taking up this, for giving me this opportunity, taking up this offer and deciding to go along with me. Yes, registration is still on. If you would like to sign up for my pro baking class, please sign up. If you know you have faulty recipes, your recipes are always failing you, your batter doesn't rise, your cake doesn't turn out well, you're just managing your recipes, you have bad reviews from your customers, you're not satisfied with the taste, the texture, the look, the quality of your cakes, then this class is for you. Please send me a message right now on Instagram or send me a mail to ibakecakesick@gmail.com. If you're seeing this video and you still like to take advantage of the offer, please send me a mail as soon as possible. If you're seeing this video, then do it right. I might give you some consideration. So thank you, and thank you once again. Now, the last point I'll be sharing is this. Depending on the recipe, you might want to fold in your flour instead of beating. Like for myself, for me, when it comes to adding my flour, whenever I get to the stage of adding flour, I usually like to keep it on the lowest speed. I keep it on low speed, right? Because I don't want to overmix my batter. So you might want to consider folding in your flour, folding it gently, or using the lowest speed. Because if you overbeat it, not only will your cake turn out dense, it's also going to affect the texture. It's going to affect the structure of your cake, and your cake batter will not rise, your cake will not rise. So do this right. It's either you're using the lowest speed, you're mixing slowly, or medium speed at some point instead of overmixing, overbeating, or you fold in your cake batter. Now, these are the ways that you can get your cake batter to rise, and I hope that this video has been of great help. If you've watched up to this point and you've gained from my video, please smash the like button, give me a thumbs up. I please beg of you to please like this video. Your likes are decreasing. Please, it doesn't cost anything, it's free. Just hit the like button. Please help me get this video to as many people that need to see it, and as many people that need to learn and be educated. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing by hitting the subscribe button and turning on notifications so that you're notified when I upload a new video. See you in any of these my videos or any of these my videos, and please once again hit on the circle to subscribe to my channel. Until I see you in the next video, stay happy, stay safe, and stay blessed.